Christine Todd, psychic medium here. After my paranormal tour with Lopaka from Mysteries of Hawaii, I needed to do a little grounding, and what better way to do that than to spend time with animals? And don't worry, you'll hear more about all that paranormal stuff on my show Divine Life. But for now, sloths. I mean, come on, they're so cute. I love them.
Wow. Peter cracker, monkey biscuit, and some lettuce now and
Pretty much everything.
then. A lot of it's grown here, and Whole Foods will actually donate the rest of it, so these guys do eat them.
Most he's gonna eat now. So we brought some leaves.
By the way, what Linda is bringing in is called howl flowers or howl leaves. We have about 40 of those trees growing in the zoo. The sloths only like leaves from about 10 of them, so they are very spoiled.
Are these from Costa Rica?
They don't go as far north as Costa Rica, we think. It depends on which zoologist you ask. But these are Linnaeus' two-toed sloths, and they are found throughout most of northern South America and maybe a bit of Central America. So Peru, Brazil, Colombia. Usually when people think Costa Rica sloth, they think about three-toed sloths. Yeah. These guys are bigger. Scientifically, they're also cuter too. They have more well-rounded facial features, which are what we're attracted to. So for those of you just joining us, we have Opihi on the right. She's the oldest sister at 4. And then on the left is Tommy, who's 1.5 years old. Despite being younger, Tommy is bigger than her sister. In fact, she's bigger than their parents and most wild sloths. That's because they do have constantly nutritious food every single day to eat. And so they're able to grow much bigger than wild sloths thanks to their diet. Thanks for that demonstration, Opihi. So you can see just how effective those claws are. First and foremost, those are nature's coat hangers. You hook them on a branch and you can just dangle there as long as you want. And this is their way of saving energy. I mean, look at us. We're standing here like suckers. We're actually burning calories by supporting our body weight. They're letting gravity do most of the work for them. Compared to an animal of the same size, they have only 30 to maybe 40% of the muscle mass. I hate to say it, but laziness is a survival strategy for them. That's also why they sleep 20 hours a day, and they'll get up for about 15 minutes on average just to eat, and then it's back to sleep. That's their routine. For 13 months, their youngest sister Lolohi was born after 12 months. It's not that accurate an average, so one of the things we've been doing is rewriting the book as we go. Because they're so secretive, not a whole lot is known about them, and so it's not just the babies born here that are important, it's also what we can share, the knowledge we gain, and the knowledge we disseminate to other zoos to help their programs along. Yeah, mountain apples. They just started blooming last week, so this is a special seasonal treat for the sloths, and a lot of our other animals get to enjoy. Speaking of other animals, you've seen and heard them. That's Ditto and Margarita, our golden lion tamarins. I'm actually really glad you get to see both of them in this exhibit because they do share the same habitats in the wild, but they couldn't be more different. On one hand, you have the sloth. They actually move slow because camouflage is their #1 defense. The slower you move, the easier it is to blend in, and so predators have a hard time seeing you. On the other hand, you have a bright orange monkey, and they need to keep moving in order to stay alive. By the way, I talked a bit about pooping earlier, so sloths, they are the most vulnerable when they're on the ground pooing. They can do almost everything upside down. Clearly they're eating upside down, they sleep upside down, they will even breed and give birth upside down. About the one thing they cannot do upside down is use the bathroom, and again, that's one of the great mysteries we're trying to figure out. But that means that whenever they need to poop, they have to crawl all the way down to the ground, and usually they poop in the same place, which is great for the keepers, but that's when they're most vulnerable. It's the worst feeling when you're sitting on a toilet and a jaguar jumps out and grabs you. It gets getting caught with your pants down a whole new meaning. But again, if they're only pooping once a week in the wild, it's really hard for that jaguar to time it just right. So that's for one of those reasons these animals are a creature of least concern. They have a very wide range across northern South America and a decent sized population. Compare this again with the tamarins. They are an endangered species. There's less than 3,000 in the wild today. Believe it or not, that is an improvement. 30 years ago, there was less than 300 golden lion tamarins. But our zoo is part of the species survival program to not just breed them here, but release them back into the wild. Of course, they are learning animals. You can't just dump your children off in the middle of the woods as much as you'd like to sometimes. So we actually had to send the offspring to Zoo Atlanta, monkey school. That's where they learned how to avoid predators, how to find food, and when they graduated from that program, they could be released. And so that's what we're doing with the sloth right now, the species survival plan. I did say they're not endangered, but you do not want to wait until something is almost extinct before you try and save them, especially because, like I said, Other zoos, some of them are having trouble breeding these guys. I don't want to name names, but we like to joke that one of the reasons why is they probably have two boys together instead of a boy and a girl. It's difficult to tell their gender just by looking at them. We actually thought Tommy was a boy until she was 6 months old. That's when she was finally big enough for us to actually take her away from mom for a sec just to check. And that said, if there's one thing about these animals that are not slow, it is their growth rate. By the time they're 9, even 10 months old, they're actually too big for mom to carry. That's kind of a problem because they still want to be carried at that age. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. But that's when mom kicks them out, and by the time they're a year old, they are independent and living on their own. Did anyone have any more questions so far?
How many times do they eat a day?
How many times? So we have these feeding sessions with them once a day, and then as often as they like, they'll get up usually at night and they'll keep nibbling on leaves and other stuff we leave for them. This is Ditto, by the way. He's our male golden lion tamarin. And you can see, oh, he's getting some crickets right now for enrichment. Enrichment is anything we can do to make sure each day is different and interesting, whether it's crickets for them to hunt or piñatas or toys to tear apart. The sloths are only up for 15 minutes, so